Okay, we're gonna start on the back bodice. So that is the most recent one that I have finished, or the last one that I finished on the quilt top. And I'm going to do the stitch into ditch along the diamond patterns. But what I wanted to show you is how I'm going to end up cutting this out, because like I talked about before, I've got to have some overage to give a little bit of wiggle room. So I've got it set up down here. Okay, what I have done is I have folded this line of fabric over on the diamond edge. You can see all of these are going on the diamond edge. And I've laid the bodice back down here on that fold. So we've got all of this extra fabric basically up here and along these sides and then down this way as well. Now I'm not going to cut all of the extra fabric out because I'm not cutting out this pattern yet. But what I'm going to do is to probably cut off a little bit up here. All of this extra can go because I don't need it at all. And then we'll cut down some here. Now, the reason that I'm going to cut it off is because I'm going to do the quilting on it, but one, I don't want to run out of quilt batting because I'm quilting an excess more of all of those. Like if I quilted all of that and all of these, I feel like I'm not going to have enough batting to cover the whole process. The other thing would be my thread. I only have 2 spools of the Aurifil thread, and I'm already questioning if that's going to be enough. So again, I'm going to cut down. And there's also just no reason to do extra work if we're just going to trim it off in the end. And I know you're saying, well, you already did the extra work of piecing it, but some of that just came with ease of strip sewing it, and also just I didn't really know how big I needed it to be, and it was faster for me to just piece everything all at once and put it together and then cut this off. I can save these fabrics and, we can use it for other scrap quilts and that kind of stuff. So it's not necessarily just like chucking it and tossing it in the bin. If that bothers you, you could definitely do it a little bit more methodically, but that would have taken me forever, and I don't want to do that. So let's get this done. Alright, this is what we're left with. I did use pinking shears for cutting this off to help with any potential unraveling as I cut through some of those. So let's go ahead and open this. So this will be the fabric that I'm going to do the stitch in the ditch, and then we will be able to cut out the pattern piece and make some progress. Okay, what I did was laid out the batting and then laid down this, cut out the size around it so that I didn't take more than I needed. Then I used this 505 basting spray, temporary adhesive, to spray onto the batting and then place this on there and really smoothed it out. It worked really hard to smooth it out. Everything that I have been cutting, I've been using the pinking shears to help with any potential for this to shred on any edge of it. And now that I have done that and my machine is all set up to go, I can actually go ahead and start doing the first little bit of quilting to get the quilted robe done. I may flip this over one time and just make sure that I got all of these wrinkles out. I will say that this light cotton batting is really lightweight. It's just super thin, which I think is going to be great. It will definitely hold heat, but it's also going to make the fabric definitely more breathable being cotton than like a polyester or a synthetic. So that is the way to go. And it's really, like, honestly, look how flexible it is. Now, I know I haven't done any quilting on it, and I do think that that will affect it some as well, but starting out with that I think is good. So it should be interesting to see the difference once this is all quilted, how much stiffer it is, or if it's stiffer at all. So this is really what we're dealing with right now. It just feels like almost a stabilized piece of fabric. And then I'm just going to start, you know, they always say in quilting you should start in the middle, so this is a middle-esque, so I'll do that and we'll get some quilting done. Okay, everybody, we have done the first line of quilting on all of, well, I say line, we've done the quilting on this. Went by pretty fast, and I did have to switch up my needle, so I'll talk about that later in a moment. Right now what I'm doing is ironing this so that I should have all of the points on end, okay? And now what we're gonna do is first move some of this stuff out of the way. Okay. Now, okay, I guess I need to fold it this way. There we go. Okay. So this is going to be on the fold right there. Now, my question would be, okay, if this is the waistline, I'm just looking at where this comes in. Like, so here's a shoulder. Trying to decide if I should go ahead and cut this or not. And I think I'm gonna wait. I think. Until I have everything, and then that way I can see. So the reason I'm gonna wait, I wanted to go ahead and cut this, but the reason I'm gonna wait is, so this is my waistline. And I guess my question will be, can I match up or get close? I won't be able to do the same colors, but can I match up this skirt coming up, right? So if this was the skirt coming up here, you know, could I match it so that it doesn't look like, hold on, let me look, right? So that when they come down, can I match it this way? Right? Do you see how this is? And I mean, obviously I'm rolling this up, so it's not right, but can you even see that? Okay, good, you can. Can I match this so that it looks more like this, or however it lines up? So that's why I'm not going to cut anything yet. I really wanted to cut something. Oh, that's so sad. But I think it's important not to get ahead of ourselves and not cut this just yet. We can pin it. All right, so I'm going to take some pins and we will pin this. Okay, so I'm going to pin this for now. I'm not going to cut it because I want to see if I can match up all of the waistlines and everything. I'm going to say I'm not sure that that's going to be feasible, and maybe that's the downside of this pattern. I don't know, but because you've got the waistline to match up, potentially, you know, I don't think you can even match up the shoulders because they're going to be going a different way. You know, there's just a lot of components to match, and I don't know that I can do it, but for now, I've got one piece done. I do think that this quilting, I think it looks good, honestly. It doesn't take away from the design overall, and it's very light. So light, it doesn't also restrict it like dense quilting would, so it's gonna make it feel nice to wear. So I think that's really nice, right? So now I just gotta do all the other pieces. Okay, I'm gonna start work on this next piece. I've already spray basted it on, flattened it out really nicely. This is gonna be one of the shoulders. It's the one that's got the really cute one right here with the toy store and ice cream store. And I've cut it down a little bit so that I'm not excess quilting. But I did have to change a couple things. I was having some issues with skipped stitches on my walking foot. And so I thought, oh, gosh, is this the walking foot? Also, I was really initially worried whenever I was quilting this with just the batting and nothing on the back that it was going to get caught in the feed dogs. We were going to have all sorts of problems there. So I had this whole plan of how I was going to quilt all of this. And on top of that, I had got the Microtex 8012 needles. And so I was messing with all of the things to try and fix the skip stitches. I thought maybe I was going too fast. I slowed down on my speed. I adjusted the tension. I changed the stitch length, everything. And basically what it ended up was that I found, just through some research on the internet, the Brother PQ 1500 SL is made for a specific needle. And these are the needles that I get. These are the organ needles, 15 by 1 needles, and 12. So this is what the box says, and that's what it looks like. When I got this box, I did purchase it just for this, and on top of it, I wrote the name of it because I do feel like after you buy several needles, you're kind of like, I don't know what they are. So my one tip would be, if you do this, keep the box and label the box for what it's for, because once you get a couple of needles, you're going to go, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. So definitely do that. I went back to this needle and I have had no issues with skip stitches. So I don't know, the Microtex needle had been through some research what it had recommended doing. I'm going to be interested to see how that works with the Bemberg fabric, but seems like it's okay. So we're going to keep going. Oh, and the other thing is I did move the feed dogs up. So I've cut them back up just like normal, as if I was doing normal quilting, and I have had no issues at all moving this through. It is only 2 layers of fabric and it's not very thick, it's very lightweight, and it's not very intricate quilting, so I don't know if that's part of why, but it's moving through the machine beautifully. I don't have any issues at all, and I changed out my foot from the walking foot to just a regular sewing foot, and I'm not having any problems at all doing this, so I'm perfectly fine, and I think I'm faster because I can sew faster, not when I'm on the walking foot, right? The walking foot, you have to be kind of slow. So that's all good news, and that means I can get through these faster, which is what I'm going to work on. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Little Quilter. Today we're going to continue work on the robe, and I've got some updates here. So I have got done several of the quilting portions of this. I think I've got 3 of the skirt bottoms and I think 1 of the side panels to go. All the rest of it has been done, but of course, I hit a snag. And basically, I ran out of batting. I don't know why. So, a lot of this I've been running through AI. And so, for some reason, it thought
Oh, you could do all of this with just a twin size. I think it was a twin size, which definitely did not work. So I ordered a king size batting to replace that, but it was in the natural, and I did the quilting in the white. So I was afraid that if I used the natural batting and the cotton batting, that the shades would be off because of just, you know, the natural batting is kind of a cream colored, and the regular batting or the white batting is very white. And so I just didn't want there to be any possibility that we would have an issue with that. So I've set that batting aside and I'll use it for something else, I'm certain. But I went ahead and ordered the white, which means we're kind of stuck for the moment, but we're not totally stuck, okay? What I've got is I've gone ahead, you can see here, a new little machine is out. This is the Genome Mod 8933. It is a serger machine. I think I'm saying that right. I don't actually know. And the thread that's on there is the thread that came with the machine. It was already threaded, and I honestly am a little bit afraid of it, and I don't want to undo it. I did watch a video, which if I can find it, I will link it down below for you guys, that was super helpful in figuring out how to thread this machine. And there is this really awesome, what do they call it? There's a really awesome threading guide down here on the machine. But still, whenever I first looked at it, it was like looking at like the worst IKEA build you've ever imagined in your life, right? The worst instructions. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it was very overwhelming, and I was still trying to figure it out and had a hard time with it. But I did find a video, like I said, so I feel a little bit better about being able to figure this out. But I'm still not quite ready to jump into threading it. And what I'm going to be using it, let me close this up here. So what I'm using it for is nothing really important. I'm just going to serge the ends of the Bemberg fabric so that we can go ahead and wash it. And maybe, since I can't, so this is the area that I'm doing. As you can see, it already has a thread that wants to unravel. So I don't want to wash it like this, or I'm going to end up with something horrible. And I don't care that it's white thread, because it's not going to be seen anywhere on this. I'm going to cut my pieces out. So I'm going to use this machine. Honestly, like I said, when I opened this thing, I was a little bit afraid of it. And you know what? I don't know if that's a pattern. I wasn't afraid of my first sewing machine, but when I finally got the long arm up and running, and turned it on and ran it for like a few seconds, I was terrified of it. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is so fast. It's super scary. I don't think I'm going to be able to use this. What have I done? But obviously I'm great and totally used to it now. So kind of the same thing with this. I opened it up and it just seemed like such a foreign machine, and there were so many threads and so many things that I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to use this. But I did read through the directions. I've watched the video. And all I gotta do is just go across this line here. Just so whenever I wash it, it doesn't, go to pieces. Boy, isn't that gorgeous? That sheen. Okay, distracted. All right, let's do that so we can get this in the wash. All right. Well, I mean, for having, pretty much no idea what I'm doing here, I did it. Look at that. I don't think that looks half bad. I'll give you a better close up. But I did adjust the tension a little bit, and I think you can tell that I did that. I don't really know. I mean, I think when it started out, it was a little bit high up, and then as I moved through, I adjusted it, and it's a little bit better. So I am very glad that I did that, though, because I definitely was already pulling off, tufts that were starting to unravel. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then we will be ready to wash this. So that's exciting. And then once we wash it, oh my gosh, see, that means I can cut stuff out for the actual quilt robe itself, which is, wow, kind of terrifying, actually. Kind of terrifying. Oh my gosh, where is the edge of this? Oh wow, look. Okay. Yeah, definitely need to do this guy too. All right, I'm going to do that. Okay, I know we've had some discussions here about what to do with the collar. I always wish this was, you know what, I need to make me a mat that is like as wide as my table. I think I should do that. That'll be a project for another day. But, okay, back to what we were discussing. So, what we were discussing was we have talked about doing something different for the collar and for the cuffs on the robe. And I think, I went through and thought about a lot of things and looked at what you guys talked about as well. And I think what I would like to do is maybe this fabric right here. This laundry basket fabric, which I think is kind of similar in color to the Bemberg fabric. So we're not going to be so jarring, I guess, or clashing maybe. All right, so I have washed and I have ironed, although I'm not sure if it's really made a difference, the ironing, because I did it late last night, so I definitely did not cut any of the fabric out, but I have it done. So the next step I can do while I wait to get some more batting is to go ahead and lay all of that out and start cutting out the actual pieces. Now, the other update I had was with regard to the cuffs. So I have decided to use this fabric for the cuffs, for like the main sort of body part, right? So if this is the cuff, right, my cuff is going to be rolled up. So on this side right here, you're going to see that beautiful Bemberg fabric. But on the underside, which, if it's always cuffed, you would have this fabric right here. Now, I like this fabric for a couple of reasons. A, it's still laundry basket fabrics, and I did have to purchase some, but I have enough now to do both cuffs and the collars, right? And so when we're talking about the collar here, right, this flipped out portion here is going to be the Bemberg fabric. So it's going to be beautiful and satin, just like the cuffs. But underneath, so this part right here will be this laundry basket fabrics. And I think that it's just going to accomplish for me not having so much bulk in these areas, right? I don't want this to be thick and I don't want it to be hard or frustrating, right? And the same for on the cuff, right? We're going to have that flipped over. So I also just don't think it's worth going through and piecing more diamonds and quilting all of that only to never see it. And so the bulk and the effort, required to do that just doesn't seem like the trade-off is there, right? If this was something, again, that you were going to see all the time, if I wasn't doing a rolled cuff, yes, I would definitely go ahead and finish out that diamond, but I just don't think it's worth it. Now, part of why I chose this I liked the blue that we talked about, but there was something about this pink, and I also think that when this is behind, so if this is the pink cuff, then behind it right here on top of it is going to be that Bemberg fabric. And I think the color tones are really nice and they're going to match. So you're not going to have such a stark contrast between like a blue and a pink side. So at least that's my thought process. Now, this beautiful piece right here is one of the cuffs. So this is the cuff that I've chosen, and I've got one of the little birds in there. Thankfully, I did not realize it until just now, but I have cut these pieces properly. I think I have. Oh, I may not have. Yeah, I didn't for this one. So I may have to cut this again, but I didn't realize until I was looking at the pattern that, and of course this is flipped over, but you can see the little notch. So that little notch right there is actually the upside of the pattern. So that's a little frustrating, isn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did that backwards on this one. So I did it correctly on here. And this is that underside piece right there. But this one I think is not, well, let me see here if I flip it this way. So let me just check. So if it's flipped this way, yeah, no, it's definitely, this one will be upside down if I do it that way. So probably gonna have to cut another one of these because I think they at least need to be going in the same direction. So this one I messed up. You know, I keep messing up on these. I did it with the, that's why I have this extra piece of fabric right here. So this piece of fabric is one of the collars. So it'll be the underside of the collar, but I forgot that I have to flip the paper over. So I cut one and then I cut a second one, but I did it in the same direction. So I just made two. Let's see, it's going to be under, so I made two left sides, basically. So I'll fix that. Thankfully, I got enough fabric that, like, that's what I purchased it for. So I have plenty of fabric to go ahead and do another cuff. And that way we'll do that. So I'll cut that out in the right direction. But just a heads up, if you're doing this pattern, do make note of those little notches. That may help tell you which way is up and which way is down. And honestly, I didn't really know it until a little bit later. I was watching something else or looking at something else and I realized it. So that's unfortunate, but it's okay. And we can use these for scraps for other stuff. So that's my current plan. We'll cut another one. And then the next step is I'm going to start cutting out the Bemberg fabric. And once we cut that, we're going to have to do 1/8 of an inch around the edges of it, just so that, again, it doesn't shear or start, you know, fuzz coming off of it. So we'll jump into that. Okay, so I have corrected the cuff issue. I've got both the fabrics prints going in the same direction. And now the next step for me is going to be cutting into the lovely Bemberg fabric. So I did wash this and let it air dry for a period of time, and then I went through and ironed it. I don't really feel like that mattered. Oh, and I also did well, I can't find an edge, but I did do the serge machine on the edges there, and then I ironed it. And honestly, I can't really tell that I ironed it, and this fabric is so slippery that there's just no way to like fold it in any way that keeps it from like that doesn't keep it from just falling into the floor. So I gave up on that. I ironed it at least once, and that's all that matters, right? At least if I've washed it and ironed it, then hopefully we've got the shrink factor semi under control. So now, because I don't have any more of my batting, I'm going to cut out some stuff that I can, and I'm going to do the cuffs, and I'm going to do the collar because, well, I've already got those pieces, and those pieces are pretty easy, and hopefully these are small. I'm hoping I don't burn myself doing this because I'm limiting the amount of fabric that I can use for the skirt part is such a big part. So it does cause me anxiety, but I have a lot of this fabric, so we should be okay, right? Theoretically, we should be fine. So I'm going to go ahead, lay this out, and we're going to cut out some of the pieces for the lining, which is super exciting. Okay, let's do it. Okay, you guys, that definitely didn't go to plan. A little bit nervous about doing this on the other fabric that I have got, or I'm a little bit nervous about cutting this for the skirt fabric because that was really, really difficult. And ended up, because I have to do interfacing on this, I went ahead and cut out my interfacing because, well, it's just easy to cut that out. But this fabric is so slippery, so slippery. So my first attempt that I did it with these, I mean, it just, it looks terrible. And it's not, I mean, it's in the right shape, but it's not the shape that it's supposed to be. And I'm definitely going to have to run this through. I'm going to get out the sewing machine and I'm going to run this through because you can see it's already wanting to fray. And I've done very little with this. So these are definitely my mess up pieces. You know, these pieces right here are at least in the right shape because they're using this. Now, when it comes to doing those skirts, I don't know. That is not going to be fun. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to do some more research on the best way to cut those. Maybe it's just pinning, pin, 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 pin. If any of you guys have used the Bemberg fabric before, what did you all do to cut out your pieces? I mean, if you weren't using a lining, then what did you use? I did see one that was mentioning using tissue paper, but especially with the maybe I could use another thing of paper and pin paper under it, like I don't know. I guess the hard part is that the robe skirt bottom is just so big that it's not like one single sheet of paper or one single sheet um, of tissue paper is going to cover it. So any suggestions on that would be totally appreciated because I am a little bit freaked out now that I am not going to have enough. Well, now I'm worried because I've had to cut double cuffs and I haven't even done the collars that I'm going to be in trouble and not have enough fabric now. But I mean, there's still a lot of fabric. So hopefully we should be good. And usually when I order fabric, I like to order extra. I'm loving the colors, very happy with that, being super gentle because I don't want this to start ripping any after all of that. And I'm going to go ahead and do the collar so that I can run these through the machine and make sure that we don't have any of these edges getting frayed because I definitely don't want that. Okay, let's do that. Okay, everybody, we've got a new machine here. Super excited to show you guys this. This is the Brother CS7000X, I think that's what it's called. It mainly I got this machine because I needed something to do buttonholes for another project that I wanted to make, and I don't have a machine that will make a buttonhole. And my other machine, so the Brother PQ 1500 SL, is a straight stitch only machine, so it does not do any of the buttonhole stitches, which for this project I don't actually need, but I have figured out why my other machine was skipping stitches when I switched to the Microtex needle that was recommended for this Bemberg fabric. And that is because it's not the right needle for the PQ 1500 SL. But that microtex needle works great with this machine right here. And it's a really nice machine, actually. It's a very smooth machine. I know it's new, so obviously everything's well lubricated, but it's super smooth, and I'm able to use the microtex needle with this, which I'm not doing any major quilting here, so I think that that's going to work really well. This machine came with several foots, one including a walking foot, so we may switch out this current foot for that. Right now, I'm just using it to stitch the 1/8 of an inch around, and I've done it already once on this one right here, just so we don't have any more fraying of the fabric. And I've got my lining on the back, and then we've got the Bemberg fabric with the stitching all around, which is, I mean, kind of exciting that we're making progress here, in just a different way. Obviously, we still got the stuff to quilt, but this is great. So I've got to do this, and then I think we'll be able to kind of sandwich our fabric together, and we can actually do the quilting for this part. And I'm gonna have to look at that and really check it, because whenever I was doing stitch in the ditch, I just followed the lines. Well, and this time around, the issue is originally my plan had been to do that ruler work, which would have been very straightforward and easy. But in this case, I'm not doing the ruler work now, so I really need to try and line up those stitches. And I think maybe laying it out on it and drawing in the lines with chalk line and then sort of measuring those out. It's probably going to be the best way to do that. So that's going to be a fun adventure to see how it works, but I think that would be the best way to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep sewing these here, and that way we can get done on that part. And I may be done for tonight because it's getting a little late. I think it's midnight, and I've got to get up and go to work for a little while in the morning. So, but I'm so sad because I'm making progress. I will say cutting this Bemberg fabric with the lining so much easier. So I am really nervous about cutting out the rest of these fabric pieces without having a lining on them. I mean, they don't have a lining on them, and that's part of it, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, man, how am I going to do this? Because it's just so much easier to do it that way. And it's so slippery and just want to like shear and do all of these things. So I've got to do some more research on how to cut this out the best way that I can. And obviously I think going to a larger table is going to help, but yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about this because I just don't want to waste fabric and mess things up. But I really like the way the Bemberg fabric looks, so I'm really hoping that this is worth it, and I think it's going to be. I need to figure it out, and we can do it. I can figure it out. It's doable. So, and then getting to quilt on my new machine. And, it's always fun to quilt on a new machine. So we're using all sorts of tools doing this new project. So let me go ahead and jump into this, and we'll get it done. Before we do that, I did think, you know what, I'm just going to give you guys a little tour. So here is the little thread holder. We've got a bobbin winder, which I did wind one bobbin in there. This is the foot that it came with, and I'm using it right now to just kind of guide my sewing for that 1/8 of an inch. This is a speed control, so if you go it up here, it's going to go really fast. I don't want it to go that fast, so and then if you go here, it's super slow, which is kind of nice to have a little bit more control here than just with your foot. This is the needle up and down button. Um, you know what? I think this may be to cut the fabric, actually. I'll have to try that because I just lifted the needle up and did the fabric that way. This is to back stitch. I believe this is our tension disc here. And then over here, you've got all of these stitches here that can be done. Obviously, I believe these are all of your kind of buttonholes, which I'm really excited about. Right now, we're just doing this stitch length, and that's what is on here. So 0, 0. Right there, you can obviously do this one where it's going to go over more to the center line. And then I believe here we've got, and I believe here we've got our stitch length. I'm not quite sure what this one is just yet. I think it has to do something with the zigzag, because it looks like a zigzag, but I haven't investigated that further. So really fancy, nice little machine, and was pretty easy to wind. Everything kind of goes through here and is numbered. Down in here, it does have, I believe, an automatic threader, which I never use those because I never read the manual to know how to use them, but that may be something I need to look at doing. And then we've got our Microtex needle in there, so very happy to be able to use that, since I thought, gosh, I've bought these needles that don't even work. But this is a nice little machine, and I think going to be really good for doing any clothing, so I am excited about it. Okay, guys, super exciting because I did get some batting. I've got it right here. The Dream Cotton, 100% cotton quilt batting. And I've got a king size one, so we should be able to finish. Remember, I've still got the 3 pieces of the skirt and one of the front panels. I think it's a front panel left to go ahead and quilt. And then I will be able to really sit down and start cutting these out, and also cutting out my lining fabric, which I am not looking forward to. I have also purchased a couple new cutting mats, so one that's quite large, so hopefully that will take up a good bit of space because it's not going well with the cutting. I haven't cut any more than what I've done, but I mean, I have a lot of anxiety about cutting the rest of this lining fabric, and yeah, you guys weren't kidding for those of you that commented and said it's going to be hard. It really is hard to cut this fabric, and it look good. So I've got a challenge ahead of me, and I still question if I haven't. I mean, surely to goodness, I have enough fabric to do the lining, but we shall see, won't we now? All right, let's jump into getting the rest of this done, and here we go. Okay, so we've got a bit of a bunch of quilts everywhere. So I've got a skirt here, another skirt there, a side bodice, and then another skirt here. Now, this one and this one I've spray basted. I'm not going to spray baste anymore because these are pretty big, and I do believe this spray basting is temporary. Yeah, so I just don't know how long it's going to last in sort of that nice way that I want it to be. So this is the OD 505 basting spray that I'm using, and man, it comes with a lot. So I'm glad I got this one because A, it's a bunch of it, and B, I can just keep using it for the bumblebee quilt. But the good news is all of these are now covered with batting, and I have some left over, but I still have to do the cuffs. So that's good that we still have left over. But isn't that pretty? Looks so good. All right, let's quilt it. Okay, and just in case you were wondering, yes, we got the Brother machine back out for it. I did try to do the quilting on the long arm because I was like, it's just stitch in the ditch. That's not anything big. But man, that throat space cannot compare to that throat space. So I definitely just pulled it back up. And I really love this table because this right here is one of those hydraulic parts. So it was sitting down here. Honestly, my knees are also thankful that this machine's back up because it kept wanting to scoot closer and invariably hitting the machine or hitting this little wooden part right here. So we've got the other Brother machine now sitting over here, ready to go for the next time that we need him. And we're going to do this. Now, I'll probably do some of the most of the satin stitching on that because I can use that Microtex needle that's good for that. But right now, this machine can't compare to doing the quilting with that throat space and moving all of this fabric through, especially these bigger quilted robe components for the skirt. So keeping on. We're going to get this quilting done fast now that we got this machine out. Okay, you guys, I've got one more quilt skirt here to do, and then I will have quilted all of these pieces. So I've got everything else quilted. I really do, which is very, very exciting. And what I will say at this point is I'm going to stop for now, and hopefully on the next video, what we will be going over is actually cutting into the Bemberg fabric and maybe getting to a point where we can actually start putting some of this quilt together, which would be super exciting. I have also got to, now that I have the batting again, I need to go ahead and plan out the quilting for the collars and the cuffs, because those you go ahead and quilt before you put them together. So I can go ahead and work on designing that. But overall, we are making progress, and we have made a lot of progress. There's been a couple of hiccups along the way, and as always, I hope that you guys are enjoying the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Don't forget to give me any tips or tricks that you have for working with the Bemberg fabric. I have been doing some research and I've got some ideas, but anything you've got so that I can cut these pieces out and be able to do it, because again, I still have fears that I'm not going to have enough fabric just because these skirts are huge that I have to cut out. So all right, I'm going to leave it with that. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time on The Little Quilter. Thanks.